Thank you all so much for joining me today. I know you're busy, and I think you'll find today's presentation really valuable. We've put a lot of research and time into it, and it's all about how to start your job site drone mapping operations with the new FAA 107. It's a step-by-step guide to tell you everything you need to know about the 107, what it means for you, and how to get active in your organization. We're going to start off by just talking a little bit about drones, why you would even want to do your own drone mapping, and then getting into the regulations and how to do it quickly and easily. My name is Barry Rabkin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Identified Technologies. And as you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to enter them in the text box below the video, and we'll be addressing them during the Q&A and throughout the presentation. I'll also be joined today by Cassie, who's our Client Success Manager. She knows all the FAA regulations and training forward and backwards, and she'll be helping, assisting me in the specifics and some of the more fine-tuned details. So I want to start off by talking about why anyone would want to do project tracking and why they'd want to use drones. So the majority of projects today do run late or over budget. Now, that's not because people aren't trying to be realistic in estimates. It's because project managers are asked to do the impossible. They go to war with a mountain of paperwork. They have to communicate with their contractors, leadership, customers, all while having perfect visibility to every change on every massive job site, all simultaneously. It's an impossible job because you can't be three places at once, and something has to give. Some of these sites might be 100, 200, 1,000 acres, and they have rapidly changing contractors, equipment, and buildings. And sites are mostly still managed today the same way that they were 20 years ago, with construction being done off rolled up paper blueprints. Managers walk the site with clipboards, taking notes and pictures, and all the stakeholders have to actually physically visit the job site to check progress. Aerial overhead data is only rarely captured due to the large costs and delays of setup, because all you want is the data, but you're having to get a pilot out there, a plane, paying for all the jet fuel, all the logistics, and it can take easily 4 to 8 weeks just on setup. And the fundamental issue that companies are grappling with is that it is impossible to make fast, informed decisions without consistent site visibility. This leads to a few problems. Inefficiency, because you have expensive contractors and rental equipment going unused, just sitting on the sidelines due to bottlenecks that could have otherwise been prevented. It leads to project delays while you're waiting for customers to get out to the site to approve portions of work and release funds for the next section. It can lead to low profits. When projects go over budget, it often comes directly out of the construction company's profits, and it can lead to lost customers, because if customers experience disappointments on their projects, they may not use you again, they may stop mid-project, they may even file lawsuits. So what drones do is they give you job site visibility, they give you accurate data, right on par and consistent with standard aerial data. It's automatic. You can literally get project tracking at the push of a button. It's near real time instead of waiting months to get your data back or doing it once a quarter. Many of our clients are getting data updates every day. They may run a flight that morning and then have the data back that afternoon or sooner. And it's completely secure. About our company, we offer an automatic edas model that's end-to-end drone as a service subscription. We're not a drone company. We're not a service provider. So think of us, if you wanted to have your house cleaned, you're not going to buy a vacuum, you're not going to hire a maid, but you might get a Roomba that will take care of it for you automatically. We are proud to work with industry-leading clients in the NR 400, including Kokosin Construction, Seneca Resources, PJ Dick, Mascaro, Americold, and EQT. And we've recently been featured by TEDx, Inc., CNN, South by Southwest, TechCrunch, NBC, and most recently New York Times for technology. So I want to go through the agenda, tell you a little bit about the basics about drones that everyone should know, how we're benefiting your industry specifically, and then we'll get into the meat of the webinar, how to start your job site drone mapping operations with the FAA 107, give you a full step-by-step guide. And there's also a white paper if you want a little reminder, if you want to share it with your coworkers, that's below the video on the right. And then we'll open it up for audience Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the discussion. And we have a special limited time offer just for the live attendees. So for the basics about drones, let's talk about the past and the present. So RC planes and helicopters are decades old. They've been around for a long time. So why is it that there's a sudden interest in drones today? Well, the reason is for RC planes and helicopters, this was the common RC user experience. They were difficult to maneuver. They were kind of cheap, flimsy toys. They weren't reliable, and you couldn't do much with them. So this was really the common remote control aircraft user experience. Play around a little bit until it crashes. So why is there this sudden massive interest in drones today? Well, it's a combination of government and private sector innovation. You have flight controllers from NASA, GPS systems developed by the US Navy, miniaturized sensors, digital cameras, and all of those things with battery life and model aircraft really lift their potential at an amazing new level. And we've seen early applications in things like real estate, sports, movies, and TV commercials, and even deliveries with companies like Amazon experimenting with it. And in most of these cases, all you care about is moving something from A to B or capturing the data. So it's much, much more efficient to put it on a little drone that weighs a few pounds than it is to get a whole plane up there, or a helicopter, which is how it's always been historically captured. So how are drones benefiting your industry? Well, they're being used in mining, construction, oil and gas, agriculture, and landfills. And you're seeing specific applications for mapping and surveying. Drones let you automate advanced surveying and mapping projects. So these graphics are straight out of our SiteIQ software. It's exactly what you'd see on one of your projects. You can get things like 3D volumetric analysis. That's what you see in number 1. So that's an aggregate pile, and you know exactly how much inventory you have. If it's initially placed on uneven ground, we can factor that in. So it'll calculate the difference. And this is good not just for aggregate piles for mining, but also on earth moving and excavation projects. You can also capture not just one stockpile, but multiple stockpiles over time, so you know the total amount. We can do contour mapping, orthomosaic overlays, and as-built versus as-planned blueprint overlays. So you'll take the initial plans for it, you'll put it over the actual project, and you'll see side by side any discrepancies. You can deal with them immediately and quickly, or just that everything lines up and you want to show off to the customer and make everyone feel good. We also have capabilities right in our software, so you can monitor progress reports and cut and fill tracking. You can do heat maps. You can also download all the data in a CSV for easy reporting, and you can securely share the data and export in all major file formats if you want to do your own work and your own analytical tools, or just keep your own records aside from our cloud-based platform. And you see mapping, so you know how far away from project completion you are, and given your rates of progress, forecast out about how far you are from completing, making sure that you're on time and on budget. That also lets you, if you are running a little behind, lets you get more people involved if need be, well, you still have time to do something about it. And we're working on incorporating several other sensors. We're testing NDVI, or Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, thermal imaging, sense and avoid technology, gas detection and methane, particularly helpful for pipelines, and multispectral imaging. We often get the question, what's the right drone? And the answer really depends on your specific needs. There's no single drone that's perfect for every application. If you want, you can spend almost $100 million on a Global Hawk from Northrop Grumman that weighs 32,000 pounds. It'll fly at almost 360 miles per hour. Or if you just want a toy that'll take a couple of photos, then a Phantom from DJI is perfect. For an amateur that's just trying to capture just pure photographic images, something like that's great. So it really depends what you're trying to accomplish with it and what data you're trying to capture, what level of autonomy you need, and what you're trying to do with that data. So how are we different than other alternatives for mapping? Well, traditionally, you've had manned survey teams, you've had aerial surveys, and now you have us, the edas model, where it's end-to-end drone as a service. So the others are more for one-offs. Maybe you're just getting mapping done once a month, once a quarter, in some cases even once a year. And in a situation like that, it can make a lot of sense. An aerial survey is good if you're covering a lot of ground quickly. You can do a 100-acre site. Might only take 2 hours to gather the data. A lot of the time delay is in the initial booking and then the data processing. That can take, in some cases, 2 to 3 months. And you're looking at usually $15,000 to $20,000 to again get the pilot out there, the equipment, the fuel, all that. For a manned survey team, you don't need the expensive equipment, but what you do need is a lot of skilled labor and time. To do a 100-acre site might take 4 weeks to capture the data, and then you have to process it. And that's just on a 100-acre site. Some are many hundred or even thousands. And you also have to worry about the safety issue of asking people to march around potentially hazardous job sites with steep inclines and sort of navigate heavy equipment as it's going by. And I've been on some of these sites where they have tractor tires that are taller than I am. And you do have to really watch out for your safety. And then the third option now is a subscription drone service, where if you want, you can get scans weekly, daily, even hourly. You get unlimited updates. So instead of just paying once per year, once per quarter, you pay a flat monthly fee, and you can do as many scans as you want, getting constantly updated new information. And now, instead of having to wait, easily a month to get your data back and find out that for the last month you've been doing the project wrong and fix it at that point after the time and the resources have been invested, now you're finding out the same day, when you can still make the change and you haven't lost that time and invested those resources. So it makes you very responsive, very reactive. It can save a huge amount of rework and resources. Instead of having to book maybe multiple weeks for an aerial survey or a manned survey team, it's instant. When you have the subscription, literally all you do is push the button, the drone flies, captures your refreshed data, it's processed, and you're able to use that data in almost real time. And in terms of the actual gathering time, to do a 100-acre site takes just about 9 minutes with our Boomerang drone. So you can say, well, that sounds great, but why do I need a service like Identified Technologies? What's the benefit of an edas model? Why don't I just go get a drone and do it myself? Well, as we discussed, the right drone really depends on your needs. And drones are getting more powerful every day and every week. But most drones, all they can do is capture photos and video. And it's also not just about the drone, it's about the processing software, the flight control software, the analytical tools once you've actually captured that data. So if you want to do it yourself, you'll need to handle all the FAA regulations and costs, train and maintain drone pilots. You'll need the software, hardware, processing systems, storage and management, people to run it all. And that's an ongoing expense that will scale up as your operations scale up. You'll need to take on the risk and the insurance of the technology, deal with different people pointing fingers if the technology doesn't work exactly the way you hoped, as different manufacturers kind of blame each other. And you also have to take on issues like crashes, replacements. Even if no one's injured, a lot of these drones might cost 50 grand a pop. And while you're replacing it, you're not doing mapping. With us, we take care of all that. And for the common drone mapping process, what you would have to do if it's totally in-house, you got to lay ground control points, you got to get your KML with map perimeter, you have to create and upload your flight plan, do the drone flight, geotag the data, transfer the data, process the data, store and manage the data, and then finally you get to analyze and collaborate on that data and the insights from it. So that's a lot of steps. With us, you have to one time upload the flight plan, and it's not going to change after the first time. And you can use our built-in software to do that, which is totally integrated with our drone and our analytical software. The drone, the boomerang, will automatically fly, capture all the data for you, and then the data is uploaded and processed, and then you just access and analyze your job site. All the tools are built in, they all play nice together, and it's a seamless system. I think our technology sets us apart, and our customer support sets us apart. There is no one pointing fingers. We're the whole system, and because it's a subscription model, we don't get paid unless you're happy. So it's in our interest, and we work with all the clients that we serve to make sure that all their needs are being met and everything is completely seamless. It's also very scalable, whether you have one site or 100 sites, since it is just push button drone and it's that easy to capture data, it's easy to scale up. There's also a value in technology leadership. It differentiates you from your competition, helps you get more work. We help you work more efficiently, and save money versus direct alternatives like traditional aerial. We give you the data that you need to do the work right. We help you complete it more quickly and efficiently. We improve your team and your customer communications. We help you do fast, accurate quality assurance and do stronger marketing where you can really showcase your work. Anyone can say all this, but I'd like to show you a quick video from one of our satisfied customers. This is Seneca Resources. We've been working with them almost since the very beginning of our company, and probably more persuasive to have them tell you about us than have us tell you about us.
Geomatics here at Seneca Resources. Seneca Resources is an oil and gas exploration company. We've been around for a long time, over 100 years. I've been working in the mapping industry for 20 years. We're making sure that we know where everything's at, whether that's above ground or below ground.
My name is Mike Hancherick, and I'm the lead geomatics analyst. Having accurate information is important. I've always sort of viewed GIS as a spatial accounting system, so we know what is happening on the face of the earth at any given time. I'm involved in the GIS operations for our field office in Brookville, Pennsylvania, where we help all the departments in the company with mapping needs, field requests, GPS work, survey work, you name it. We try to help however we can.
We've traditionally surveyed using mapping grade GPS, which is sub-meter, and survey grade GPS, centimeter grade. We got interested in UAVs because we had a lot of demand from coworkers to have updated imagery, to view our facilities and our assets in general. It's just being in tune with new technologies. Always be willing to see what's out there and see what you can do to improve your workflows. Improved technology helps Seneca because it allows other people to do their jobs more efficiently. So we see the UAV as a means of staying current and having it on more of a micro level so that you don't have to fly your entire acreage to get an update. You can just go out and change since the last time you were there. The drone would go out and do all his work for him, and the points that the drone collects are all geo-referenced, so they know where they're at in the world. Now it's just as simple as having GPS to get a few known spots, which takes a few minutes, and then let it fly.
So hope you enjoyed that. If you found that video helpful or you want to see it again, share it with others, it's right on our homepage. So you can just go to identifiedtech.com later and check it out. And it's just a good example of the kind of results and insights and business impact that you can get from the edas model. So with that, I want to turn it over to the lovely and talented Cassie, who is our client success manager. She is very well versed in the onboarding process, has a deep understanding of the 107. And I'm also pleased to be joined today by John Little, who's our chief pilot and has been instrumental in the training process. He has decades of experience as a pilot and flight. And they'll be presenting on this and also answering questions that you might have. Feel free to type any questions you have in the field below the video. And with that, I will turn it over to Cassie. You talking to that, and then whenever you have a new slide, just hit that, and all the notes are there.
Okay, first I would like to cover how to gain your remote pilot's certificate under Part 107. Under the FAA's Part 107 regulations, those interested in gaining a remote pilot certificate to operate SUAS drones commercially need to demonstrate knowledge on the aeronautical knowledge test. Passing this test is the first step of your remote pilot certification process. It requires deliberate preparation and a commitment to aligning oneself with the FAA's training methodology. The test consists of 60 questions with 3 single responses, A, B, and C, per question. Each test question will be independent of other questions, therefore a correct response to one will not depend upon or influence the correct response to another. Some questions may require you to reference airspace maps or charts. These materials will be provided to you by your test proctor in the form of a testing supplement. The cost of the test is $150, and you are allotted 2 hours to complete the test. The minimum passing score is 70%, which means you have to answer 42 questions correctly. In order to take this exam, you must register. You'll need to contact your local FAA-approved testing center and take the test in person. You have the option to appear at a testing center on a walk-in basis, call a central registration phone number, or register online. You can register several weeks in advance. FAA has designated 2 private companies to administer the test: PSI Laser Grade Computer Testing and Computer Assisted Testing Service, also referred to as CATS. If you register with a PSI Laser Grade Testing Center, you will call the closest PSI testing center and make an appointment, but you will not pay until you arrive to take your exam. If you register with the CATS testing center, you will call CATS, give them your preferred date and payment, and they will locate the closest testing center to you and make your appointment for you. If you decide not to take the exam, you are unable to get your $150 back, but you can use it when taking the test at a later date. You will need to provide proper identification. Testing center personnel will not begin the test until your identification is verified. While you should confirm this with your local FAA-approved testing center, here's a list of items you should bring with you to the test. Here's the breakdown of topics that will be covered in the test: regulations, airspace and requirements, weather, loading and performance, and operations. An example of what would be covered under regulations is waivers. If the remote pilot determines that the operation cannot be conducted within the regulatory structure of Part 107, he or she is responsible for applying for a certificate of waiver and proposing a safe alternative. There are many more subjects that fall under regulations, such as accident reporting, FAA inspection, and use of drugs and alcohol. Airspace classification is covered under the National Airspace System topic. You will need to know in detail what each class means and how it is identified on the sectional chart. Topography, airport markings and signs, and collision avoidance are also covered under National Airspace System. The weather topic goes over weather reports, forecasts, and charts. You should know how to use weather reporting codes, automated weather observing systems, and understand atmospheric stability, density altitude, and weather briefing. Computing weight and balance, load factor, and stalls all fall under the loading and performance topic. Under the operations topic, it is broken down into many subjects, including communication procedures and maintenance and inspection procedures. A large category that is also covered under operations is aeronautical decision-making. The risk management process is something that is covered within this. Now that you have a pretty good idea of what the test consists of, let's talk about the results. If you fail the test, it's not the end of the world. You'll receive a test report from the testing center. The report will contain your test score and will list the knowledge concepts that you answered incorrectly. This will give you a better idea of what to study for and when you get back home. You may not retake the knowledge test for 14 calendar days from the date of the previous failure. So use that time to relax and brush up on the concepts you are unsure of. After 2 weeks, you can retest, but you'll have to pay another $150 to the testing facility if this happens. The other outcome would be passing. 100% of the clients we've trained have passed their test on their first try. When you pass your test, the next steps would be to complete the FAA Form 871013 for a remote pilot certificate using the electronic FAA Integrated Airman Certificate and/or Rating Application System. After you log in, you will have to follow several steps. Then you will be prompted to enter the 17-digit knowledge test exam ID. Please note that this may take up to 48 hours from the test date for the knowledge test to appear in IACRA. Once you have done this, you will sign the application electronically and submit it to the registry for processing. Next, a confirmation email will be sent once the TSA security background check is complete. It will provide instructions for printing a copy of the temporary remote pilot certificate from IACRA. Finally, a permanent remote pilot certificate will be sent via mail once all other FAA internal processing is complete. This may seem like a lot to take in, but don't worry. We help our customers figure out who should take the test, make sure they pass it, and continue to provide support long after they are certified to make sure that they're comfortable and confident. Our VP of Aviation, John Little, has created training guides that cover all of the necessary and essential information to becoming a certified pilot. I have also made practice tests to help our customers study. To get this information elsewhere, it could cost up to $300 for every person wanting to take the exam. That option will most likely not include an expert point of contact or guidance once you've passed and need help out on the field. Our first customer that passed the remote pilot test said this when he shared his good news. I did pretty well on the areas I studied, which I think shows that your guides are very well put together. I think the sample questions were very similar and relative to the actual exam. Overall, I felt prepared and wanted to thank you and identified for the study material. Our support extends beyond the Part 107 exam. Our onboarding process is an important feature to discuss as well. The sequence will start with getting you set up, going through training, preparing you for flight if you are certified, or setting you up with pilots if you are not. Walking you through receiving the data, then making sure you are constantly applying the data to your business and have successful results. An important step when we are getting you set up is a conversation with the customer success department. This will allow us to understand your business, your goals, your success metrics, so we can build out a personalized roadmap and customize your onboarding process. We will also collect any necessary information, such as insurance information, and identified technologies will then get you and any other user set up so you will be up to speed and ready to receive your data. The most critical pieces of successful implementation will be accompanied by our customer success department. We are in the industry of ever-evolving technology. Identified technologies will provide exceptional support throughout this process, from webinars, training guides, best practices, workshops, and screen shares. We won't let you fall behind. Whether you are a new user or an established customer, you will always have training and education from us. Rest assured that if something doesn't go as planned, you need additional help, or a function isn't giving you the information you want, customer support will help you get it fixed quickly and easily. Whether it's on-the-spot troubleshooting or an overtime software enhancement geared to your needs, we will provide continuous updates and always be there to help you. Our support center is an exclusive website and is available to customers through our SiteIQ portal. All necessary information, new feature training guides, certification study guides, step-by-step lists for flight planning, breakdown of SiteIQ, and additional helpful content is stored in the support center. Customers can access this anytime, anywhere. Customer success will create and deliver quarterly check-ins to review results against success criteria to make sure Identified Technologies is delivering maximum value to your business every step of the way. With our extensive support, you won't have to worry about getting set up because becoming certified under Part 107 or receiving accurate data. Spend more time applying information to your business and less time figuring out how to do so. When onboarding with Identified Technologies, you will maximize safe drone operations, your test scores, and your confidence. You will minimize time spent training, delays until drone mapping can begin, training costs, operational mistakes, and surprises or failed exams.
So Cassie, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. In terms of, I think you summed up really well how we help through the 107 process and onboarding. In terms of why would you want to use Identified Technologies beyond that? What's the value to the edas model? You're maximizing your bids won, your jobs completed per year, your profit per job, stakeholder collaboration, and client satisfaction. And at the same time, you're reducing billing reconciliation delays. You're reducing surprise project costs, less overwork and rework, reducing mass haul costs, equipment and labor costs, injuries, late and over budget projects, and you're reducing your regulatory and technology costs as well as your setup time and problems. So with that, I want to thank the whole audience for joining us today. I know you're all busy, and I really appreciate you spending the time with us. And turn it over for audience Q&A. So again, we have in the room myself and much smarter people than me, Cassie and John, who really know the whole client success process and the FAA regulations forward and backwards. If you haven't yet, to sign in for the Q&A, there's a tool called Chat Roll right below the video. So you can just sign in there. You can leave it anonymous if you want to. Type in any questions you like. If they're not about the 107, that's okay too. We'll do our best to answer them. And if you think of questions after this talk that you wish you had asked, you can just hit the Contact Us form after the fact. That's in the top right of our website. And our drone experts will get back in touch with you. And we also have a free offer just for our live attendees where you actually win a free month of automatic drone surveying. Recently, GII Consulting won, and I know they've been really happy with the experience. To do that, at the very bottom right of our website, there's a link to get free aerial drone mapping. So after you're done with this webinar or any time today, you can click that, tell us a little bit about your needs, and you'll have a chance to win a free entire month of drone mapping. You won't pay a penny. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Okay, so the first question we have is, can you please talk about ground control points, how many you recommend, and who's placing them? Is it the surveyors or someone else?
First part of the question, Barry, was how many?
Yeah, just I guess general ground control point best practices, how many you're laying, probably depending on the job site and who's laying them.
Well, as far as the amount, the the amount of points that you're laying. So if we have 100 acre square or rectangle, we prefer 5 points. So the 4 corners and 1 in the center. And if you are on a linear job, such as a pipeline, it's important that when you're laying them, obviously you can't lay them the same way because you don't have the corners to lay them. So you're going to stagger them. You're going to, let's say, put one to the far left, and then the next one goes to the far right, and that gives you the best outcome when you process the data. As far as laying them, we've laid our own GCPs. We've laid GCPs for customers. They're laid with an X with vinyl or wood that's a contrasting color to the surface, and then they are measured with some type of survey equipment, whether you have a base station and a rover, and it gives you an XYZ coordinate of lat long and then an elevation coordinate to put into the processor, and that's where you get your best data.
Perfect. Okay, and that was John Little, our VP of Aviation, and I think he just showed you why. And we are also putting the finishing touches on RTK technology, which will mean in the relatively near future, you won't even need GCPs working with us. So that's just a temporary thing for now. Using them does help calibrate the data, but you actually have to lay them once. So it's not like every single time you fly, you're putting down ground control points, you lay them on the project once, and then you can use them for the entire life of the project. The next question was, can you discuss accuracy? Some potential clients are concerned that it won't be as accurate as actual surveying. And can you talk about what process flight plans produce the highest accuracy? So do you want to field that too, or I can get at least half of it?
Yeah,
okay.
that would be good.
Okay, so let me jump in, and you let me know if I left anything major out. Our boomerang drone is just as accurate as standard aerial. So if you are used to using planes or helicopters and having them scan, you're going to get the same degree of accuracy with our data. We actually have a separate case study called "How Does Standard Aerial Compare to Mapping Drones?" So I would recommend checking that out after you finish this. We did a project for Seneca Resources actually on a well pad, an impoundment pond rather, and we used our drone for it, and then they compared that against standard aerial, and they had a third-party company called Spatial Analytics compare the data side by side and found that it was absolutely equivalent. The difference is that, well, the other company took months to get the data back to them, at which point the job site had changed, so it was no longer accurate. We had it back within hours. So I think you'll find that, well, ours is consistent in accuracy because you get it back so much more quickly. It's actually much more relevant to your job site in progress. Do you want to add anything to that, John, or is that okay?
No, that they speak of that. They're asking about flight plans produce the highest accuracy. Since our tablet, you basically, when you lay an area out and when you lay your
Flight IQ
on Flight IQ, when you set up your area of interest, the tablet will make the most optimum flight plan for the area. Mm-hmm. So it's really simple how that works.
Okay, and then the general rule is low and slow. So you'll always get higher quality, more accurate data the lower and slower you go. And with that, you can get extremely, extremely accurate. On some jobs, they don't need it. If you're doing a massive aggregate pile, a centimeter may just not matter. But the lower and slower you go, the higher the accuracy will be.
And just to add to this question and the previous question, both ground control points and flight planning, all of this stuff is included with the onboarding and the training and education. So don't feel that you won't be able to ask these questions and have that going into this. It's definitely covered in depth once you're onboarded with identified technologies.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Cassie. And there's also no surprise expenses or anything like that. That's just included as a normal part of our service. The next question is from Gene. He asked, do you file for exception for the 107 rule to have visual line of sight to the drone? So I'll turn that over to.
So they're asking if we have an exemption for VLOS. We do not have that because we split our sites up into sectors. There are a few waivers that have been granted for that. You're going to have to have some documentation and data to base on risk and proven methods to track the drone, whether you use FPV or you use some sort of telemetry to track the drone. But we split up, if it's a 400-acre site, we split the site up into different sectors and just move around the site to fly each sector.
So just to add to that, we can do a 100-acre site in about 9 minutes, and you don't have to physically be steering the drone. It flies itself. You literally just push the button, it'll take off, fly the area, capturing all the data, and land. So for what John's describing, on a 400-acre site, maybe it takes 3 passes. So you'll go to one area, push the button, watch it fly, it'll come back, you go to the next section, and so on. So, it may, on a site that size, you might be looking at maybe an hour to cover the area. But when you're comparing that to a month of manned survey time, it's pretty attractive. We got a question from Mike on if we have the capability for solar or thermal imaging over fields to identify temp variances in panels. Thermal imaging is something that we are developing and testing. It's not widely available at this time, but it's absolutely something that we'll be releasing in the future. And in terms of capabilities for solar, we have heard of some clients getting solar panels so they can charge the drone in remote locations. You can also do the same with a generator. Next question is, do you process all the data after a flight, or do you provide real-time services? So the answer is we do process it after the flight. It'll fly the entire site. It'll send all the data to our processing center. We take all the geotag data, put it in a nice integrated full report. Use our analytics to compare progress day to day and week to week. Give you all those tools, and you're going to have it back in near real time. So instead of waiting months for your data, you'll have it usually within a couple of hours. And another good question is, can you compensate for ground elevation with a heavily treed site? So I'll turn that also for John. So I believe what they're asking, and feel free to type if I'm misunderstanding, but it's if the ground is a little hard to know where level ground is because there's so much tree cover, is there a way to guesstimate that using our software and adjust for it?
So they're asking, I'm still not understanding their exact question.
Again, feel free to type if I'm confusing it, but I think the answer is they want to know what their baseline level is for ground, where the sort of true level ground is, but there's trees on the ground. So is there a way to kind of guess what the true ground is given tree cover?
Well, when we're collecting data, yes, we can. I mean, they talk about LiDAR going down through, but the more when the trees have the leaves on them, there are some areas that if it's a really, really dense forest with large leaves, I mean, we can still calculate the elevation. But if I'm not sure if that's what they're asking, or if they're, if it has something to do with flying above the trees. I'm not sure exactly what the question is.
Okay. So just to build on that, we don't, and I don't think there is any solution out there that's a replacement for surveyors. Surveyors are important, and they always will be. We're very much a tool that surveyors can use, or GIS teams can use to complement their skill set and get more work done that's high quality and fast. So there might be a situation where you actually would want to send a surveyor in under really, really dense tree cover just to get that first baseline. And then everything after that point, you could do completely with drones. And you can also adjust accordingly if needed, knowing where that baseline is. The next question is, can you support LiDAR? So our technology is equivalent to LiDAR, but we actually don't use direct LiDAR technology. The reason is that LiDAR is extremely heavy and it's extremely power hungry. So you'd be sitting around having to swap your battery out every couple of minutes. Well, the drone just sucks it dry because of the LiDAR. So we've developed our own proprietary technology where you get much, much longer flight times. You only have to swap the battery every maybe.
The flight time for our drone is right around 15 minutes.
Right, exactly. And that's enough time to cover, if it's 100 acres in 9 minutes, then it's probably around 150 acres max in that time. So you can cover huge, huge areas very quickly, but you're still getting the same level of accuracy. So again, feel free to check out that case study on how traditional aerial mapping compares to drone mapping. And you can actually see the side-by-side comparison done by a third party. And there was another question on how LiDAR works at penetrating through standing water, and I guess probably how we do side by side. John, do you want to comment on that? Okay, we haven't actually had to do much with standing water. Most has been more standard excavation projects, maybe an impoundment pond where they will someday add water, but it's not yet being done. So it hasn't come up a lot. Everything we've seen in our tests is that our technology is really completely comparable to LiDAR. So whatever you're getting from LiDAR, you should expect to get from us too. But we haven't actively tested, let's say, a filled river before because it just hasn't come up. We've done light snow cover and light rain and things like that, but we haven't actually done, let's say, a full reservoir. So happy to do that test with you if you want, but you should expect the same results that you're getting with LiDAR. With that, if there's any other questions, we'd love to address them. If not, I really do want to thank you all for your time today. I hope you found it valuable. I'm going to send out a link, including a recording of this full webinar first thing tomorrow morning. It'll go out at 6 a.m. So if you'd like to review it, if you want to share it with your coworkers or partners, please feel free to do so. If you want to view the white paper that sums up everything we've covered today, that's the link right below the video that says view white paper. If you'd like to get a demo so you can see our technology in action in real time and see how it would apply to your workflow and your specific needs, you can click the Try Demo button in the top right of our screen, the orange button. And if you want to get a chance to win a free month of drone surveying, that's in the bottom right under additional links. We just ask a few questions to learn more about your needs. It helps us build out our product roadmap and make sure we're building the features that are most important to you. And again, you can win an entire free month of doing as much drone mapping as you want. So John and Cassie, I want to thank you both for your time and your expertise. And I'm floored every day by how knowledgeable they are, and you're going to have them at your disposal if you do decide to work with identified technologies. We're going to be with you every step of the way throughout the onboarding process. And I just want to thank you all for your time and wish you all a wonderful day.